It's never ending. Good morning to you.
Well, Leanne, I'm struggling to hear you a bit there, but certainly it looks like this case is far from over until the state gets what it wants. You'd recall, of course, that the state had asked the South Gauteng High Court to impose a sentence, the minimum sentence of 15 years imprisonment for murder on Oscar Pistorius. But of course, Judge Thokozile Masipa handing down 6 years last month, citing a number of reasons, saying that she believed that Oscar Pistorius was remorseful and that basically handing down a lengthier sentence would not be in the interest of justice. We've seen the state really come out to hammer that and say they believe that that is too lenient, and that will be tantamount to a misadministration of justice at the end of the day, also calling it unjust as well. We're also expecting the defense not to take that lightly in this court here this morning. We're expecting them, we've seen in the court papers that they've submitted, them basically saying that it's an insult for the state to bring an appeal on the sentence that Judge Thokozile Masipa had imposed, that basically saying that they believe that the sentence that she did hand down was comprehensive and just as well. But what are the prospects of the state's success in this matter? Let's chat now to our legal expert, Ulrich Roux, who's been with us throughout this case. Ulrich, a very good morning to you this morning. First of all, are there any prospects of success in this matter?
Morning, Chriselda. I think the fact that a murder conviction carries a minimum sentence of 15 years imprisonment makes this a contentious issue, and that the Supreme Court of Appeal must provide clarity on this issue. The state obviously arguing that Judge Masipa emphasized the mitigating circumstances too much and that she should not have handed down such a lenient sentence, and we'll have to wait and see whether she agrees with him today. What we can expect today is that the state will argue that they should be granted leave to appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein, whereas the defense have come out and they've blatantly said that this application is a vexatious one, it's completely malicious, there's no merits in it, and they actually use the words enough is enough in their papers. And we'll have to wait and see whether Judge Masipa agrees with the state or not. Obviously it's difficult to predict these matters, but I would say there's definitely a 50-50 chance of this matter going up to the Supreme Court of Appeal. If she denies the state's application, their application for leave to appeal, then they will be at liberty to approach the Supreme Court of Appeal directly on a petition.
That was exactly my next question. We've spoken about the prospect of success, but if she does not grant leave to appeal, then certainly we could see the state approach the Supreme Court of Appeal. Do you think that they recall the last time they'd overturned the culpable homicide conviction to that of murder? What would the likelihood, perhaps we might be jumping the gun, but what would the likelihood be given the previous finding that the Supreme Court of Appeal?
Well, yes, the circumstance that the Supreme Court of Appeal, if it does reach that court, will have to consider is purely the mitigating and aggravating circumstances which were argued during sentencing in front of Judge Masipa in South Gauteng High Court. So, once again, difficult to predict. I do, however, think if Judge Masipa refuses the state their application for leave to appeal, that the state will most likely approach the Supreme Court of Appeal on a petition. This matter has been carrying on for such a long time, and it's really as if the state have, dug their claws in deeply into this and will see it through to the end. Just on that point, the most important factors that Judge Masipa will have to consider today when argument is heard is whether a case is made out that the Supreme Court of Appeal, on the evidence which was led during mitigation and aggravation of sentence, could come to a different conclusion and thus could hand down a heavier sentence. Now, she'll have to evaluate all of the evidence presented in front of her during sentencing as well as the arguments today in order to reach that conclusion. A lot of people have come to me and said, well, isn't it bizarre that the same judge who handed down the sentence, that you have to bring an application for leave to appeal in front of her and not in front of anyone else. And that is how our criminal justice system works. And
but what do you think this has a lot to do with? That many are saying the state simply should have let it go, given that Oscar Pistorius had already spent a year behind bars, 7 months under house arrest, and now the 6-year imprisonment term that was handed down by Judge Thokozile Masipa. So, is this more about the perception of whether South Africa's justice system works and is not selective?
Well, I think that the state is at liberty to bring this application. You know, they're not bringing anything out of the ordinary. They evaluated her judgment, they evaluated the sentence which she handed down, and they felt that it was not the right sentence, and thus they were at liberty to approach the Supreme Court of Appeal. So I don't think people should jump the gun and say that, well, it's only because it's Oscar Pistorius that this is going so far. I don't necessarily think that way. The state have used all of the methods and the avenues available to them in order to take this matter further. You know, the sentence handed down effectively is an 8-year sentence because of the fact that he'd already served a year. And one would have to wait and see whether the Supreme Court of Appeal agrees. The one risk that the state obviously has, if they are granted leave to appeal, then the Supreme Court of Appeal could very well reduce the sentence if they feel that the sentence which was handed down was too lenient. But that is obviously a risk which they've considered and one which they've taken.
Ulrich Roux, thank you very much for your time this morning. Certainly we'll be crossing to him throughout the day when we expect proceedings to get underway. But Oscar Pistorius will not be at court this morning, Leanne. Of course, he is still serving that sentence at the Kgosi Mampuru prison in Pretoria. We'll certainly bring you more from here, the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg.
Chriselda, thank you very much. Certainly we'll be crossing to you once again for some more analysis and interesting reporting on what's been happening and what should be happening today. Now, speakers at the funeral service of former Sports Minister